It's really weird to sit here, honestly, and just think about where we are as a franchise, because there's been times where we've been, even when we were on uneven ground with Zach Wilson, where we're like, I just don't know if he's going to be the guy. You were so sure that the Jets had a core for the first time in a while. And then Douglas whiffed on the offensive line too many times. The Rodgers experiment was a disaster. Saleh wasn't a very good head coach. It's just everything happened so fast that the talent that you had accumulated couldn't overcome that situation.
I'll close with this light rant because we hit all our questions. We've been subject to such bad GM work. Idzik to McCagnon to Douglas that I'm much more confident, like every Jet fan, in Glenn than I am in Muji. Muji's young. He has to prove himself. He has no connections really throughout the league yet, not at the level you want to have. I think we were with, you didn't have enough time to be patient with Idzik. But with McCagnon and Douglas, I think we were quite patient before it was enough already. And we will be equally patient with Muji. Now, the structure is different. The Jets have long been, or at least under McCagnon and Douglas, were GM first organizations. They're now a head coach first organization. Now, what that means in practice and who gets credit for what and how it translates to the field, that remains to be seen over the next few years. But, I'm just fascinated to see what kind of GM this ends up being. I think there's been some minor moves this year. He's young. He's going to work himself into the role, I think, to an extent. You try to take confidence from a guy like Spielman being around,
right,
and the process that they work through and his background and Glenn having confidence in him. But I'm not going to judge anything on this offseason because it was we went all in Last Dance Jets for 2 years, and now we're sort of picking up the pieces and cleaning it up. I just cannot be subject to another Joe Douglas, Mike McCagnon, John Idzik level GM. Because Tannenbaum, again, for all his flaws, and he was very uneven, he made a lot of mistakes towards the end, as all GMs ultimately do. That's how these things end. Either you win a Super Bowl or you get fired. Was a winning GM and was consistently in the playoffs. And prior to him, Bradway was a bad GM ultimately, but did make the playoffs a couple of times. And prior to him, Parcells was really good at his job for the brief period he was here. So they're due to have a guy that can figure it out. And look, we just don't know, but that's just me, a long-winded way of saying I can't believe the Jets had Mike McCagnon for as long as they did and had Joe Douglas for as long as they did. You're talking like 11 years between those two guys. Yeah. It's like insane. Insane.
It's totally insane. And the fact that, they had so many swings to fix the most obvious, and they both really couldn't do the same thing. They both couldn't build an offensive line, and they both couldn't get quarterback right. And some of it, too, is the way you miss, right? Where McCagnon felt like the effort on the offensive line was just poor. Douglas knew how important the offensive line was. He just missed a lot and let things spiral. And at the end of the day, he might have contributed to it turning around because the Simpson signing looks good. We think Tippmann's going to be solid, although the Jets are telling everybody that he's in a competition to hold his starting job, which is bizarre. If AVT could stay healthy and then Olu, but it was just too late. It was just too late. Like you don't get 7 to 8 or 9 years to build an offensive line. Like maybe he would have taken Membu, and then this would have been his offensive line, but you just don't get that much time in the NFL to do that. He had too many misses. And then quarterback, of course, McCagnon's famously being Hackenberg, and Douglas is famously being Zach Wilson. Yep. You can argue those are two of the top 10 worst quarterback picks in the history of the NFL.
I would say Christian Hackenberg is like the worst second-round quarterback in NFL history. He's in the discussion.
I would say so. And then Zach, a lot of his numbers run comparable, like Jamarcus Russell and players of that ilk. So it's sometimes it's not that you missed; it's sometimes how badly you missed. Because if a quarterback is okay enough that you're waiting a couple years to figure out if he's the guy, you get chances to build the team around him that you might not normally have had. Although Douglas still got those because he had Rodgers and it didn't work out Rodgers, and he had other chances to build the roster certain ways. So it just didn't work. And I'm a little concerned with Muji, but it's so early that I'm not sitting here saying like Muji will stink no matter what. That's not, I I just think they really need to learn how the day 3 of the draft works. And it was, and once again, maybe I'll be wrong, but I thought it was a borderline like amateur hour feel this year with day 3 of the draft, where I was sitting there and I was like, I don't know who has control of the room right now, but they don't have a feel. Even if they like these guys, you have to have a feel and accumulate assets. If you don't just take a player multiple rounds earlier or whatever. And this isn't an Arian Smith conversation. This is the entire day 3 outside of Malachi Moore. So, and I didn't like their UDFA process either. I think you need to have a UDFA or two play a part in your 53-man roster. And I don't really have expectations for any of these guys too. So it's 1 year, and it's just obvious that Glenn knows how to evaluate personnel, because the first 3 picks for the Jets made so much sense that we've been waiting for this boring of a logical draft forever.
Yep.
Okay, you took who's probably the best tackle in the draft and plays right tackle at your need for right tackle. Good job. You took a high floor tight end in the top 50 for an offense that needs an on the line of scrimmage tight end. And then in the 3rd round, I don't know if you desperately needed a corner, but he's one of the best players on the board. He fits your scheme. So take him.
Yep.
And so we got to see. And free agency, we knew would kind of be a dud this year, but the Stevens contract they're going to have to stand on that. It's either going to make them look really, really smart, or it's going to be everybody sitting here and going, everybody thought this was an overpay and a weird move, except you. Like, you do have to hit on those.
Yeah.
And, a credit to Douglas, who missed a lot in free agency. He had a couple like DJ Reed, and a guy like Simpson. He had a couple, and that they can really flip your roster around as well, those mid-tier contracts. So, yeah, we got to see ultimately where it goes. I guess at the end of the day, as much as this is dumb, Muji will be remembered and judged for whoever the long-term quarterback is of this team. And it's, odds are most likely that it's not Justin Fields, and if it is Justin Fields, he plays with the most house money any Jets GM has ever had.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what he'll be remembered for. And we'll see where that goes.
All right, War Room. Thank you for listening. BadlandsTOJ.com for your live show tickets. Check back on the feed for more content throughout the weekend. We're only a few weeks away, and we're in rhythm as we always are. Appreciate all the discussion in the Discord. Keep it cranking. It helps us figure out what to discuss here. Thank you again, and we will talk to you soon. Underdog Fantasy. It's almost that time of the year. All drafts are flowing. We've been messing around with some different best ball drafts. Got to get the reps. Got to get comfortable going into August. Use July to sharpen up. Promo code Badlands for a deposit match. Connor, how's your draft game been so far?
Pretty good, man. This rookie class is going to have a huge impact. So that's been a big domino to fall in all of this. And now the ADPs start to change a lot. So when we get to August, it'll feel like a totally different game. But we're going to be running these left and right.
Promo code Badlands for a deposit match with Underdog Fantasy.